Something wanted to connect Earth with Arcturus, and I got a story about the master geneticists stepping forward with remorse and solutions to past projects gone wrong, and wanting to integrate what they've learned but haven't been able to reach us due to interference. I
Yeah,
asked
I
Gaia,
know about that.
and she said, okay, there's an, I don't know if you remember the 90s movie, Disney movie that kind of alludes to this.
What
Um,
movie?
it's called Wish Upon a Star.
No.
So just for context, this movie is about two sisters that are very different from each other, and they both make a wish to be the other sister, and it comes true. And it's like during this meteor shower thing, and so they basically spend a week in each other's bodies, and then at the end of it, the movie starts under the pretense that it's only one sister that makes the wish. And so at the end of the week, or like there's something about the stars aligning or something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but at the end of the movie, towards the end, the girl that made the wish originally makes the wish to be turned back, and it doesn't work. And so kind of the rekindling of the sisterhood is like, oh, the realization that we both made the same wish at the same time. And so that's really the proper way to resolve it and go back to the way things were. And I love that movie as a kid. It was one that I would have on repeat. And it's with Katherine Heigl, if you're familiar with her. She's super famous in a
Hmm.
lot of movies.
She was in Grey's Anatomy, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's one of her younger movies. But it was a good one. And the high school they filmed it at, I live right by, and it's right by these big giant power pole towers that Utah is growing and expanding in our population a lot right now. And so they're expanding some of the power lines, and we're like, there's just something powerful going on, like right around the area that I live, and it feels very like 0 point convergence type energy. And so that's part of the mystery that I know I'm walking through is like watching stuff be built and like feeling like I'm placing charges in a way. Like it feels like a big fireworks show is going to go off at some point and we're all going to like see what it's about and figure it out. But I
I
just,
couldn't agree with you more. Salt Lake has an energy that is unlike anything else. And when I did grid work in the spiral jetty last year, it's right next to like some NASA power plants. Did you know that? Have you been to the spiral jetty?
no, but now
Okay, so it's you want it's a portal. Like it's a freaking portal. It's an enormous installation of rocks at the Salt Lake that's only visible basically this time of year because the water recedes. And
Mhm.
so it's in the I would say there's this eerie energy in this space as you're approaching the spiral jetty. Like you're off on this dirt road, you're like, is the GPS taking me to be swallowed? Potentially. But then out of fucking nowhere, it's like a NASA power plant with like acres of solar panels and some really suspicious looking shit. And then there's the spiral jetty, like right next to it. So I feel like they are actually siphoning energy from that portal. I'm not kidding.
I mean, that tracks. I also feel like the church is siphoning energy from the whole valley. So I don't know where this spiral
Oh,
is.
absolutely.
It's probably, oh, okay. I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
I feel like you want to go. Like I feel like you want to go. That would be an interesting 11/11
I
activity,
was just gonna say the
honestly.
same thing, actually.
No, really, I'm
Our
like
brains
that
are
could
so
be
in
the
sync.
11. No, they are because I'm getting it's like a vortex that will A connect you to what Trinity and I are going to be doing on 11/11, but also it's like an amplifier for you. Like you can actually like harness that energy and take it with you wherever you want to go is what I'm hearing right now.
Cool. Okay, we're gonna look into that.
I'm seeing like the necklace that Moana holds. It's like the heart of Tafiti. It's a spiral.
Mhm.
And of course, Trinity is the Fibonacci spiral. Like every time, like the the thing I made for her in Shasta has that in the middle of it is this Fibonacci spiral. And that spiral jetty is freaking powerful. I need to send you my footage on it because I think you'll be able to connect to the energy of it.
Okay. Yeah, I would love that. Cool. I love your
That
brain.
was I love your brain. This is an interesting little sidetrack. I'm like, ooh, spiral jetty, she needs to go. But you're right in terms of Salt Lake having this energy because I've gotten last time I was there that there's just like a big hum of frequency that is just keeping people at a plateau that they can't move beyond
Totally.
unless they are detached from the matrix. But it's in great opposition to people who are detached to the like it's not even just to keep you at a plateau, but it's to attack people who are trying to burst through it or have burst through it.
Yeah, I kind of see it as like a big glass dome because if like
Yes,
people that aren't
yes.
familiar with Salt Lake City, we're surrounded by mountains on almost 360 degrees.
It's beautiful.
Like a big
It's
bowl.
beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
Beautiful.
But it's a big valley that's like but it's a bowl that holds trash in the sky. Like the inversion gets really bad sometimes, and like there's all kinds of stuff that's part of that. But the way that I've started seeing it was like I don't know if it's a glass dome, but some kind of dome over this
It's
bowl.
absolutely.
Like it's like you're saying, it's almost like a plateau. Like you can only go so far
You can't
before it
get
either
above it.
bounces you back or spits you out. I
Well,
don't
and
know.
I've noticed that that vibration starts about an hour out of Salt Lake as I'm driving in from Idaho. You can start seeing like the billboards start engaging in fear
Yep.
immediately. They do it. It's so insidious too because it's like, do you have life insurance? Uh, it shows people that are married and are like, do you need a divorce lawyer? Will she say yes selling diamond rings? Like it's all fear-based.
Well, fear.
And then it goes into like cosmetic surgery for women.
Yeah.
Is it really an eternal marriage? Like, what?
It's
Oh
so
my God.
convoluted, and there's something you're hitting the nail on the head with something though, because there's something to be said about the, and I've heard somebody say there's a lot of dark magic here,
There is
like,
a lot of dark magic there.
but
Ugh.
it's like anchoring in like what I want as opposed to what's good for the collective. Like, okay, I'm a dentist, and so I want to work on your teeth. So let's like, you know what I mean? And it's things like the bucket of divorce. Like that is a whole realm that is so twisted and manipulated, like and messed with because people. I don't want to say people target that, but in a lot of ways they are. Like
Of course they
just
do.
like you're saying with billboards and everything else. Like we want your money. We want your energy. We want to cause problems in your life so that you'll keep coming back to us and paying our bills. Like it is so deeply just doesn't feel good. Like whatever
And
weight you want to put on that.
that's even without the religious programming.
Right.
So when you go into the religious programming, that's where actually the evil is. And I've done some incredible channels about what happened with the Mormon Church and Joseph Smith. And it's kind of like one of these things where the distortion started out as a pure thing with every Abrahamic religion. The origin was pure and then it got distorted because the power was held within this vibration. And so it kind of just that black goo got inside and then like infiltrated it.
Mm-hmm.
So the black magic is actually taking place underground under the temple, is what I've seen. It's underground. I can see it now. And there's a lot of dark stuff going on under there. And I can tell you this much. This has to do with the falling of the temple. Not that temple, but the old one, the very, very old one. And the Library of Alexandria. And because all the magics that we know as black magic, that we see like sigils and symbols and all the like cloaks and drinking blood or whatever, that is actually just working with lower earth magic. But there is a higher magic to work with the sigils of angels, not demons. That was taken away from public accessibility so that harnessing that power was only available to people who gate kept it. Right. And it had been distorted into the dark. And so we don't have access to know that those things aren't just black magic. There is a lighter version of that is a co-creative instead of destructive, harnessing someone else's will energy. But because the Abrahamic religions were infiltrated with this black goo, they have taken the energy of the people who are giving away all their sovereignty into these systems, and they are exploiting it in their own magic to create their own reality. And that is largely, there are a lot that are associated with the distorted version of the Freemasons, which is not, the Freemasons work with the Hermetic principles in a distorted way because the principles are neutral. You can, like a pencil, you can write hate speech or poetry with it. And so they've actually just gate kept it, and they're just siphoning power to create their own realities. And what I'm seeing and have always seen under the Mormon Church is that they are doing dark shit under there. And I'm not talking about like P. Diddy tunnels and shit. Like they're just doing their own manipulation to keep the power in their frequency in the valley, and also trying to influence larger things based off of that.
Yeah, I feel that. I think that's part of why I've been drawn to, like, when I was younger, there was like the main temple downtown. There was one like 20, 30 minutes north in Bountiful, and there was probably one in Utah County, but I never spent a whole lot of time down there, but those were kind of the main ones that I was aware of. In the last 5 years or so, like half a dozen to a dozen more have popped up everywhere. And so I'm just going, what are you about? Like I'm drawn to them, not for any personal or
Right.
particular reason, but just because it's like spirits guiding my car. And my car's like, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna do circles over here. And that's what I mean. Like I feel like we're setting charges for something because like half the time I'm like, why are we doing this? Okay, guys, why are we doing this? But we're still doing it. So
That's how I grid too. And I've actually seen around spring, I'm supposed to go to Salt Lake and do some work with you
cool.
because I'm not freaking going through Snowville until then.
I don't blame you. I'm not ready for winter. It's so cold right now.
Oh, it's terrifying. My most terrifying drives have been around Salt Lake, so I'm just like, no, I'm not going until spring. But no, that's incredible. What you're seeing is real. And the fact that you can hold those frequencies and for you to have been called, like, what was it, Master of the Underworld or something, is why, like, one of the reasons you're able to hold those frequencies because that town just fucks with me and my daughter. When we go there, it actually last time I left, a storm was chasing me out. It was like a dark cloud was chasing me for like 200 miles. It's just it brings chaos and it brings a lot of pain and sadness whenever I go to Salt Lake. Why would I want to go back? Because I want to do grid work there and it's freaking beautiful. And I didn't get to go fully to Donut Falls last time because it was too snowy, so I want to go back.
Yeah, it is a beautiful place for sure. And it's definitely not been an easy journey walking the path here, but it's all I really know. And so it's like one of those things we talked about earlier, like the only way out is through. And so it just, in a sense, am I
I'm
going
thankful.
deeper? Maybe, but at the same time, it's like I can see enough of the way out that like I've always felt like I'm walking in the dark. And so it's maybe it's learning the hard way, these discernments of seeing perfectly in the dark with the Black Panther and everything else.
But it's also like an initiatory mastery for wayshowers to be able to guide other people through the dark with our torches once we know what the path looks like.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's going to be a mass, like, collective shadow that is just going to be really shocking for people who don't know the realm that we're in. Once they realize the realm we're in, it's going to be a disaster. So we need to know how that feels to be able to guide the people who are able to hold that moving forward. So fist bump to
Yeah.
the underworld,
I love
baby.
it.
Sharing.
Um,
Do you remember the like the rainbow? I think it had something to do with rainbow frequencies, and you talked about opening 12 portals.
Oh, with the dragons?
Yeah, probably.
Was that around, this is a while ago, yeah?
It's several months ago, yeah.
Yeah, that's when I went with my friend Mariana to Payette Lake and we anchored in the rainbow dragon frequencies to tie in Venus to Earth to Middle Earth. Is that what you're referring to?
Probably.
What
I
did
forgot
you
about
want
the
to know?
I forgot about the Venus part until you just said that, but I know I have Venus in my lineage, and so I'm always intrigued to hear what people are doing about that. But what's come forward recently is I've been doing some seriously big cleanings as I'm like releasing old contracts and from other lifetimes and things I don't even remember or have a clue about, but I know are like creating loops in my field. And so I'm just like releasing and unplugging everything, plugging stuff directly into source, plugging me directly into source, like sealing up those gaps. And so that just as we kind of shift into that fuller experience of embodying source, um, there was one exercise I went through that it was like a big tower and there was like a big like storm around it and as I was shifting things it was like pulling contracts almost out of the storm and then they were like porting over to wherever my friend was holding space for it, and so there was like this big stack of contracts that kind of piled up and it felt like a vortex energy of just like pulling this storm in. So it was very much like energy transference and seeing like one thing kind of turn into the other. But it was like creating in a different way, creating portal for this energy transference. And maybe on some level it was a bit unconscious because I do have those Venusian connections. And so I'm sure my I have other members of my team that are like all in a line going, okay, yes, let's do this, and pulling in energy from here. And it's that's been a few weeks now, but we're seeing it's almost like we built a template for Gaia to be able to like use that for herself because now she's populated like 20 or 30 of them where we started with one in that particular exercise. But it reminded me of you the other day. But it had something to do with these columns of light that are like just populating now. And so maybe it just made me wonder if like if we I mean, obviously everything's connected and we plant seeds as we go along the path, but it just was reminiscent of the work I heard you talk about before. And so I was curious if you've maybe if you've delved into that recently or if that
Yeah. Actually, because my gridwork trip I just did at St. Gertrude's with my same friend, Mariana, we were, she's Venetian, and we work with the rose codes and the rose frequencies and the dragons from Venus. Really that healed, untainted version of divine feminine power anchoring into the different realms. And so a lot of this is just being done collectively. I noticed that when the rose codes were coming online, everybody in the spiritual community was getting it from freaking everywhere. So that they had come online. I have chills everywhere. They came online so big at that time that it just really spread. And I feel like with the anchoring of, the dragon frequencies, and the dragons are just so loud right now and present everywhere in big and small ways. They are moving the energy around to like really not just anchor it, but it feels like reinforce it is what just came in. So they feel very sturdy. Those pillars feel very sturdy, but they're also like um what are those like lights for aircraft or like a lighthouse? They're really guiding the way for us to move in and lock in. It feels like a locking in, like the pillars are there, but we need to lock in, is what I'm hearing. So the pillars are ready. They've been reinforced. They're focused on enough by people on planet right now and our galactic support because they're shifting as we're shifting. And so they're also anchored. Like as we've pulled it down, the as above and so below has taken place. It's anchored and it's just a matter of like Star Wars, but like in Interstellar, when Matt Damon is like psychotic and he's trying to like get onto their ship, he like zeroes in on the spot and is trying to lock in. And it's like not quite hitting properly. I see that our pillars of the structure is ready to be locked into, but we're like here. The descending hasn't happened yet. Like it's ready to lock in. That's the image that's going over in my head. I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Yeah, no, it's helpful. I do you get the sense that this work that the dragons are doing are in a sense helping Gaia's Merkaba come online as well? Like I'm not sure how the pillars fit into that, but it feels like part of it, almost like we're seeing the surface level. But I've been seeing like big giant pillars of light going all the way through Gaia's surface, like kind of from one side to the other.
So a Merkaba activation is like, and this is a mirror. I'm being told to like look at it as a mirror. So we don't have our Merkaba activated until we are fully awakened, right? So, or we're real good on our journey of it. So it's something that we have to be ready to receive. And I feel like the pillars are part of her healing, and the Merkaba doesn't feel like it's there yet. Anyway, I don't see it. I feel like the pillars are connected in that they're the groundwork for what will lead to her ability to turn it on. So she still has a lot of steps though. That feels like a little bit like years and years.
You reminded me of something when we were talking about Salt Lake City and the Mormon Church and like kind of how there was like an infiltration that happened at some point in the consciousness. Um, and we don't necessarily need to get into the infiltration piece unless something wants to step forward, but I have a friend of mine that um, lives right down the street from like one of the original homes that were built in Utah. It was like 1848, I think, and Utah didn't become a state until 1896. And so she asked me to come over and do a house clearing for her because she says like she's really in tune with the energy and um she's like a therapist, but also a holistic healer in some ways. And so she kind of bridges that line a little bit, but she picks up on energy. And so when she walks her dog, she's like, there's just a lot of dark energy on my street. Like, can you come help? And she went out of town recently. She went to Salem for the weekend, and I was watching her dog while she was gone. And so I did a house clearing while she was gone, and the house was empty. And she had just recently had a roommate move out, and they had lived together for several years. The roommate owes her money, and she had recently gone to Washington, D.C., and it sounded like picked up some kind of intense like programming and came back, was really combative with my friend. And so it just, the living situation wasn't working out. And so she moved out. My friend went out of town. I went over and did a house clearing, and like I swear it, something didn't want me to do it. Because like I'm getting intense phone calls, somebody's knocking at the door, and I'm like, no, I'm here to do a job. Me and the land are talking right now. You guys can wait. Um, and so like within a week, like the roommate came back and showed up unannounced and like kind of startled my friend and triggered her a little bit. And so I offered to come back and, cleanse the house again. But as we were talking about the neighborhood and she's telling me about the different energies that she's seeing, um, I started wondering if maybe it was bigger than I was giving it credit for. And so I was driving around the whole neighborhood and like I kind of did a spiral, which is funny that that's connected to everything else we've been talking about. Um,
Funny, isn't it?
yeah. So I kind of expanded the clearing, and that was only a couple days ago. So I have yet to kind of hear her report back on how things are going. But it's interesting to me because it's a street called Murphy's Lane. And so
Which is in Interstellar, the lead character's name is Murphy for Murphy's Law.
oh,
Just
I
so you
didn't
know.
realize that. But at the top of the street, it's a historical home now. But it's tied to Gardner Village, which I don't know if you're familiar with. Gardner Village is like kind of in the middle of the valley. It's like this really cute area of like shops, and they have all kinds of like little fairy things going on. It's like this really cute little hidden gem of Salt Lake City that I never knew about until like the last year or so.
I don't think I've heard of it.
It's super cute. When you come into town, I'll have to take you there and we'll take a
Cool.
look. Um, but I think it's this house that I'm referring to on Murphy's Lane is tied to this fairy village thing. It must have been the ancestors of the family or something, but they call it the Gardner home. And it's on the historical roster and it's been restored a couple of times. But it was one of the first like sawmills in Utah, and there was like a flour mill up the stream, and so they kind of like came and claimed this stream and called it Mill Creek, and they named Mill Creek Canyon. So I guess in a way I'm learning like more and more of the history of where I live that I was never aware of before. But there was just something interesting about the Murphy's Law. And this particular friend, I relate her to like collective energies too. She's like a collective butterfly in my mind. Um, but there's just something about this area and the clearing that I did. And as I was reading the sign that they have outside of this house, it was talking about the original Gardner family came from Glastonbury
Hmm.
and then got tied up in the Mormon church.
Tied up, you say.
Interesting choice of words that just kind of fell
Isn't
out.
it? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's also a story building in my mind about like releasing this over-entanglement paradigm from the heart of Gaia that got brought here and then covered up. So I wonder if Osho has anything to say about that.
What I've seen just as you were talking was that like when a person is doing a parasitic cleanse, they go through a deep flu as the parasites are being as they're dying off. And it's not just the parasites, but it's the eggs of the parasites that have to die. And it takes a cycle, like a moon cycle, for that to fully complete, for the parasitic energies to, or just in our physical bodies to be rid of. But the second you start trying to kill them off, they start fighting back to survive. And what I'm seeing is that's happening just energetically on a collective level. But the more parasites that you have, the more pushback there is in the dying. I'm actually seeing a lot of the herb red clover is swooping in right now, which is it's an herb in my herbalism initiation that has this is the first time she's appearing to me. I have her, but she is for heart health and regulation of female hormones. So that particular herb, the essence of that herb is wanting to be used with this work. It's a blood purifier. And it is a perfect herb to heal a woman. I'm just seeing like a big red clover flower in front of me. And it's just actually, I think the shape of the red clover flower itself is important geometrically. It looks kind of like a blooming onion, like at Chili's.
Mhm. One of my favorite snacks.
Oh my God, it's so good. Love the queso too. I worked at Chili's. That was a horrible time. But that pure heart in Glastonbury being the heart chakra of the planet is bringing in the pure heart frequency. It's bringing in the balancing of the hormones. There's a great uh, imbalance of female hormones on the planet. It's through the water sources and water sources and just fucking everything. It's like what we're being sprayed with. It's what's in all of our products that we use. It's in tampons, pads, it's in our fucking yoga pants, it's everywhere. So there's like this disruption of the frequencies of the divine feminine and her balance. And in particular, statistically, this is interesting because it came up in a clip I heard this morning. Funny enough, about how, and I knew the statistic that Salt Lake has the highest use of antidepressants anywhere for women. And so there's like a great imbalancing, and then there's a great need to heal and balance the blood. The blood, I believe, is like menstrual cycle, purifying the blood that is connected to the divine heart of the divine mother. And it's just like gunked up. I see just like tons of calcification in the heart waves. I used to work in a cardiac rehab where people, had bypasses and all this stuff. Most of those people had difficulty processing emotions. So there's like this need for like a decalcification, an increase in flow, that blood purification, not only of the womb, but of the waterways, which are the blood source for Gaia. So there's like this as above, so below expression of the needing for purification and healing. And the essence of that red clover can be used in this energetically, just calling in the energy of it, it's just an incredibly vast frequency. It's a tone, it's a note. It's going to allow for that to be tuned, like using that as a tuning mechanism will assist. I'm hearing like working within the waterways, and it's actually the frequency of the water source in Glastonbury. It's like that pure living well water is that purified heart space, and to really take that essence with the red clover as like creating a triangulation around the valley. And I always see with you, Crystal, like using geometry in the valley. Like if you were to look at the perimeter of the valley, the mountain ranges as a circle around a magic space, you can create a geometry within it with great intention, like you would a crystal grid to center in on certain points, but that will assist in the dying off of the parasites and really using a soothing salve. Like you could, again, to use the salve with that. That's what I got. That actually really hurt my brain. I have a horrible headache now.
Sending you salve energy for your brain.
Yeah, right, right.
Take some of it
That was
too.
really interesting. I'm still seeing the red clover. It's just right here. It's really good to know because I have a list of all the different herb spirits that have come to me. I have 9, and now I can add red clover.
Love that.
Mhm.
Perfect 10.
Did
I love,
that answer your question?
yeah, totally. And thank you for the insight. Something's been bouncing around my brain as far as like, so this is like we're purifying the blood as part of it, but like there's also bone marrow and cerebral spinal fluid that are kind of like
Yes, I
fine.
have a lot on that. We need to do a whole different recording on that because I'm getting tapped out right now. But you're right onto it. You're onto it. There's a lot there.
There's just always so much. It's just like, and it just, I'm just reminding myself that this is a human experience that we chose and it takes its time and everything in divine order and all the things. And, but my creative brain is just like, oh, I want to talk about all of it all the time.
I know, I know. It's hard when you're ignited by something, you just want to keep doing it.
But balance is key, as we've discussed. So
Indeed it is.
for sure. Well, I sure appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. This is fun. What's so fun for me is I learned something new. Like, how on earth with the Hopi hair? Like, are you kidding me? And just like I saved a picture of the Hopi's hair last night because I was gonna make a reel with it. Um,
Love that. Oh, cool.
right? Isn't that freaking wild?
It's
It's
like
basically like it's a wormhole in itself.
totally. Well, it's like holding her pillar of light, and then out of
Uh-huh.
it's like, oh, dude,
That is not kidding around.
I'm gonna dream about that.
Well, and this is perfect before going to Sedona because that gives me a better idea of what I'm dealing with. Here's another picture. So it's just like, oops, it's this intentional way of creating this beautiful like portal within that connects to the pineal gland.
Totally. Like, and it reminds me of that Taurus, not within, but like Taurus next to Taurus thing with the center point in the middle.
The center is the pineal, literally the middle. Wow.
It's like, okay, oh, dude,
I know.
you're gonna be in Sedona on one side of the toroid on one toroidal field, and maybe I'll do a little thing with the spiral jetty on the other toroidal field, and we'll see what meets in the middle. How about that?
Like for real though, I'm gonna send you a video about that, my reel that I made last year because I went last October. It was just there was something that shifted that I don't think I was prepared to deal with yet
Yeah.
there. So, because there was a lot of oppositional forces there that realized what I was doing when I started doing it, and I didn't know to be prepared for that. So, I am just offering that to you as a heads up.
So looking back at it now, how would you have prepared for that differently?
I would have at least known it was there. To I hadn't yet enlisted like kind of a perma-grid of protection around myself yet. Like it was an intention that I kind of like fleetingly brought in and out, but I think I would have brought in some major forces. I would have brought in all of the team for that work. I didn't bring any crystals aside from the ones I was going to plant there or grid there. I wasn't using any for protection. I was using some for amplification. I would have just been more mindful about the elements I used because I didn't know there would be oppositional forces there. I thought it was just beautiful. So
I had
I would
a
have,
similar experience recently when I went to a agnostic mass, and it was more like, okay, somebody invited me, let's go see what it's about. This is research, but I suffered after that because there were serious forces, like you said.
dark shit. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's that. So just kind of like, and I think it just amplifies what's ever around, which is why the NASA power stations were there. So I didn't know about that. So, and then there was a murder of crows that passed over my car, and there's just like a lot of things that were like, hey, Audrey, something's going on. Something's going on. Be aware. And then I got a spiritual attack in the middle of the night. One of the nights I got the flu while I was in Salt Lake. It was just like, so had I known that that was a potential, I would have really just like shielded up so hard. I would have had my friends that are spiritually aligned to be able to be like, yo, think about me right now if you can, send your team to assist me as well. And like, or have like a group that's like, I'll be here and you'll be here. I didn't have that yet then. I was just working on my own, really. So, yeah, I think that at least knowing that you'll be more prepared.
Yeah, totally. What's your best advice for calling in the perma grid of protection? I love that you called it that. Because I feel like I step into my central channel and then I make those intentions. Like I call in certain things, but there's always room for improvement. And so I'm curious for your take on how to establish that and if it needs maintenance or if it's just like literally perma grid.
So I was so lucky because when this happened, I mentioned it. I did mention it to my friend Shayna afterwards, and she's like, "Oh, this is what you need." And she had this really cool. I can send it to you if you nudge me. I'm gonna be getting ready for my trip after we get off the phone, but it's this Mary Magdalene protection crystal grid meditation activation, and it activates. I don't know if it was like a tree of life or if it was something, but activating that, and then you're supposed to do it frequently. But I was like, no, I can do whatever I want. I set the intention, it's going to stay that way. On occasion, I tap into it to check in on it, but it seems to be of integrity still because it vibrates at a frequency of that divine female unconditional love. Fear can't even detect it. So it's kind of like an invisibility cloak.
Love that.
Yeah, it's better than being attacked. So
Yeah.
much better. So much better.
Cool. Yay, more research, more things.
Hey, you like it.
Not wrong. I mean, it's gotta keep life interesting, otherwise everything would be boring.
Fair.
Well, dear, I will let you go and get to packing, but thank you so, so much. It's always
This
wonderful.
was awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me know if you're going to Jetty so that we can
I will. Let me
reconnect.
know. Yeah, let me know what your kind of gridding plans are. Just so I can kind of be mindful of that, and I'll keep you in my mind as well while you guys are down there doing your thing. So
Yeah. Bye.
have a great day and weekend and travel safe.
Thank you.